Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mike. Got a few minutes. My kids are out practicing soccer right now, and had a few of you ask how I work the FSBOs, the for sale by owners, and just thought I'd tell you. So far in January, I have reached out to and secured listing agreements, signed listing agreements on roughly $17 million in for sale by owners and a quote-unquote luxury market in Hawaii. And honestly, the only thing I do is I treat everybody kind of like a friend. So like when I call, I don't just immediately try to weasel them into listing with me. I call, I ask a few things about their home, get them to tell me their favorite parts of the home and things of that nature. Like, just the first conversation is just trying to get more information. Like, how can I build a relationship with these guys? If you really need an in, like what I typically do is I'll call and I'll be, I'll find something in the listing. If they've got bad pictures, I'll just ask about the kitchen. Like, hey, can you give me a little more information on the kitchen? Because I can't really tell too many details, from the pictures. Or if it lacks pictures of a bathroom, be like, hey, can you tell me, is the bathroom updated? You get the point. Like, you find something that you can talk about when it comes to their listing, right? Something, point out an area of weakness in their listing, but don't necessarily like degrade their listing, if that makes sense. Like, you want them to feel comfortable talking with you, but you kind of just point out little things that you notice in the listing, right? Something that you could do better. In the first conversation, that's usually how I like lead into the conversation. Then I just kind of, make a little small talk about how my day or week is going. And then that usually leads to how their day or week is going, or something along those lines. The thing is, like, I never ask about the weather. I never, ask dumb questions that nobody really cares about the answer to. Like, I usually try to actually build a real conversation with them. And if you just act yourself and just like literally try to make a friendship out of it in the first conversation, the second conversation is a little better, a little easier. Like, so I never text in the first 3 or 4 conversations. The first 3 or 4 conversations I want to be either person to person or, like voice to voice on the phone. So the second conversation might go something like, hey, just calling. In the first conversation, I really want to get information. Like, in my market, I do have buyers that could be looking at any price point. And I've got an investor, that literally has like no limit. As long as it's a good investment, he wants to buy it, right? So I send him all of these properties. So I literally, but if you don't have a buyer, some people see it as unethical. I don't necessarily see it as unethical, because in this market, there's not enough inventory. Anybody could be a potential buyer, right, for these properties. So, you could be like, hey, I'm just trying to get more information for a potential client, and want to make sure it checks all the boxes. And like I said, you just get them to tell you everything they can about the property. And the second conversation, you follow up and be like, hey, I wasn't able to find a buyer, or my investor wasn't interested, or my investor is interested, but I need more information. Or, you just kind of fill in the blank, like however the second conversation needs to go. If you don't have a buyer, you just follow up and say, hey, tried to look at some of the things, that my potential buyer might have available, and right now, I don't necessarily have anybody interested in your house, but just thought I'd follow up and let you know, that I'm going to continue to look. And, just if I do find somebody that is like a qualified buyer for your home, would you be interested in working with a buyer's agent? Just kind of confirm that. I don't go for that information in the first conversation, right? Like, I'm trying to get them to trust me. In the second conversation, after a little small talk, and you kind of tell them a little bit about what you've done to try to find somebody. Then it's okay to be like kind of confirmed they are open to working with an agent of some kind, right? If they say yes, they're obviously ready to work with a professional who knows what they're doing, right, to help them get this thing sold. So So if they say yes, I typically kind of just make note of that and be like, all right, man, I'm going to spend the next week or so trying to find a buyer. You know, like the market's crazy. We don't have enough inventory right now, so I'm definitely going to try and find a buyer. You know, I'll be in touch. And if you need anything in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out. Right? So, you know, typically the second conversation, you know, is probably a little shorter than the first conversation. But you just kind of let them know that you're on, you know, you're on the job, right? Like you're trying to find a buyer for their place. Usually, honestly, lately, between the second and third conversation, I usually get them calling me back, right? And either asking for advice or, you know, just saying, hey, can we meet and you tell me how you're going to sell this thing? But by the third conversation, if you haven't found a buyer, let them know that you have been looking, you're going to continue to look, and there has been interest, right? And in my case, there has been interest in most of these homes, right? And so I'll call them back, let them know, hey, seems pretty hot, but right now I don't have a buyer. I am going to be in the area, right? Let them know, like, you're out in daily life. You're not just sitting at home on your couch. You're going to be out and about, right? I'm going to be out in your area. Is it okay if I just swing by and take a look at your place? Almost always they're going to say yes. You will get some turds that say, only if you got a buyer, right? Or something along those lines. And if they say that, you can just be like, well, I really need to see the place because I haven't really been able to give too much detail to potential buyers. Like, I really need to see the place to make sure that it is something that my buyers would want to see, right? So find a way in. But typically, if you say, hey, I'm going to be out in that area, I just want to know if I can stop by, meet you, and take a look at your place. It will only take just a few minutes. What's a good time? You know, like, I'll be out there tomorrow. What's a good time to stop by? Don't really give them the opportunity to say no, per se. Just kind of offer, hey, I'm going to be in that area. You know, what's a good time? I'll be there about this time. Can I come before or after? And then from there, if they do let you come, like, you know, and they don't give any objection, I usually say, all right, you know, when I do come, if we put together a plan, I tell you how I'm going to sell this thing, would you be open to, letting me tell you, you know, a little bit about what I can do for you? Like, you know, if we come to agreeable terms, would you be interested in listing with me? And guys, I'm telling you, like, so far, like I said, in the month of January alone, like I've only recently really started pursuing for sale by owners. Like, I've always called them, and I've had a little success here and there with just the normal everyday scripts. But if I stick to this process and I build a rapport of some kind, I've had 3 voice-to-voice conversations with them. Usually that's all it's taken is 3 voice-to-voice conversations, and I'm getting a meeting at least. And honestly, lately, if I get a meeting, I get the listing. And so, you know, that's just, you know, it took 8.5 minutes for me to kind of put that out there. But, you know, there's no script. I wouldn't want to use the same script that somebody else is using, right? Because that's not being successful. You know, one of the things that I keep thinking is that, like, the average agent is calling and using the average script, and they're getting average results, right? Like, just not very many for sale by owners are impressed because everybody's saying the same thing over and over and over. If you call and spin it a little differently, like, you're not just looking for a listing. In the first conversation, I have not gone for a listing in the first conversation, and I've done really well with this. Where before, you know, I would just call and use it like the everyday script and just try to go for a listing appointment in the first conversation, and it doesn't go well that way. So it's a little bit of a slower process, but typically within 2 to 2.5 weeks, you're going to have a pretty full pipeline because you're talking to all these people and all these for sale by owners, and you're doing the same thing with all these for sale by owners. Don't give them an immediate reason to say no in the first conversation. And if you have 3 or 4 conversations with somebody, you're going to build a little more trust, right? So, you know, I wouldn't try to quote unquote get in bed on the first date, right? You know, on the first phone call, don't try to get the listing. Try to build a relationship of some kind first, and you know, and then, you know, and then just try to meet with them and show them who you are and that you're a real person. And, you know, again, I'm no expert. I'm no, you know, guru of any kind. I've just had a little success in getting listings, and thought I would put this short video together, kind of explaining the process. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out. Take care.